Welcome back, you guys, to the Butterfly Season podcast. I am excited. We're on day five, day six, who knows, week 2 for sure, of our High Vibes Only series. And today I want to talk about, are you smarter than your emotions? So now that we've been talking about like a level of awareness where you can like truly tap into your emotions and understand where they're coming from, what they mean, and how they're a little bit deeper than like what the on the surface emotion is, I want to talk to you about whether or not you feel like you're smarter than them and understanding the role of emotions in your life and how to like harness them for positivity can sometimes feel like a really daunting task, honestly, especially if we're not mindful or if our mindful practice needs a little bit of like adjustment. And so I'm going to help you today, like to prevent from being like outsmarted by your emotions. This is crucial, like to development of emotional intelligence, because you start to build up your like self-awareness, your emotional regulation, like your empathetic understanding. And I feel like it's kind of like a roller coaster. Like at first it's really hard. And then like you start to like go down like, it's not too bad. And then you go back up again. And so wherever you are on the ride that is like outsmarting your emotions, here are 3 ways that you can tackle that. And one is emotional reactivity. Emotional reactivity is like the main hijacker. It literally just like hijacks irrational thinking, and then you react impulsively to like whatever the situation is. And usually you leave with like a, impulsive reaction hangover. And so when I notice strong emotions in myself that take place, my goal is to like pause, observe it without judgment, which we've talked about in past episodes, and then also try to identify like what are those specific triggers and sensations that are associated with that emotion. That's helpful because when you start to notice those patterns, you can begin to develop a holistic plan to address any emotions that might get you in that like reactive state. Journaling is also very helpful too for like tracking that stuff. My journaling is a little bit complex. I don't know if you guys are like into human design or not. I love it. And I'm a projector and I'm a self-projecting projector. So whenever I'm trying to solve a problem, if I like state the problem in a voice note and play it back to myself, it helps me problem solve better. Someone told me that and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cute. And then I tried it and I was like, wait, what? So I do that all of the time now, but I take it a step further. And sometimes I have to like write out and compartmentalize and like graphs and arrows and this and that to like really help me like grasp and understand my emotions, because your brain is so complex. And so sometimes things are layered on one another. Anyway, so if that resonates with you, try it. I love it. The next one is confirmation bias. So emotions can cloud your judgment, and then it leads you to seek information or interpretations that confirm your existing emotional state. And I didn't realize that I was doing that, but even like on like a really low level, like if I'm feeling a certain way, and I Google a certain way, I will get the outcome of what I'm fearful of, as opposed to just looking for a general unbiased response and Googling in an unbiased way. So think about that when it comes to feelings, right? If you feel like, wow, that person's rude, then you might seek somebody to like validate the idea of that person being rude, instead of maybe saying, what is it that I brought to the table that is causing me to react this way? Is the person truly being rude? Is it about you? Is it not about you? Is it actually about them and what they have going on? It gets a little bit deeper, but just think like, where am I searching for confirmation bias? Even on social media, am I only following outlets or only looking for information that confirms how I feel about a particular topic? That is something to think about. Another one, actually, let's talk about confronting confirmation bias. You might have to ask yourself questions, because like it's not something that you like just inherently realize. At least I didn't, especially when it came to Googling. I was like, okay, like I didn't realize that I was Googling like, do moles, like funny moles, are they cancerous or something, right? Instead of saying like, how to identify what mole is a healthy mole versus which one isn't. Like you can kind of get different information. And that analogy probably isn't the best, but you get where I'm going with this, I hope. So questions to ask yourself is like, is there evidence to support this thought? Or is there a more balanced perspective that I can consider? Sometimes when I ask myself if there's a more balanced perspective, it forces me to remove me from the center of it. And so sometimes, for like the rude example, if you see someone and you're like, ooh, they're rude, maybe a more balanced perspective is, are they extremely overwhelmed with what they're dealing with? And maybe I'm interpreting them being rude because they're doing X, Y, or Z. Like how can you remove yourself from the center to kind of get clarity on the overall situation? The next one is escalation of negative emotions. So emotions like fear, anxiety, like they can snowball if you leave them unchecked. I am victim to this. And so your initial feeling of unease can eventually escalate into like panic or overwhelm if you don't manage it appropriately. And then that leads to like irrational decision making or avoidance behaviors that like hinder your growth and problem solving. And so really recognizing the pattern, notice the first emotion, take a step back, identify the thought or belief that like corresponds with that emotion or is contributing to the emotion, and then pay attention thereafter to any other like exaggerated beliefs that you might be holding that are just fueling this fire. So like questions to ask yourself would be, is this a belief based on fact or is it on assumption? Have I catastrophized this situation, assuming the worst will happen? Do I have evidence to support this belief? Like reframing your perspective is crucial in this, because once you've identified the irrational beliefs and you're like no longer jumping to, conclusions, then you can have a more balanced way of thinking. So I want to encourage you guys to challenge any like mental distortions of thinking and seek more evidence, seek more balance, see if there are any alternate explanations that remove you from the center to give you a holistic view of what might be going on. Consider the worst case scenario. That's fine. That's also fine too. But then also consider the most likely scenario, like which is the less extreme version and maybe more manageable. Adopting this like compassionate understanding for your like self-talk approach to all of this is a way to have a sense of mindfulness on this journey that you're on, but then also to kind of deflate the situation so that you can confront it head on in a way that empowers you and doesn't debilitate you. So I hope this helps, guys. I'm just like over the moon over this High Vibes Only series. I'm curious to know, are you guys liking this series so far? Let me know. You can DM me. You can tag me on Instagram, whatever it is. I just want to know how you're liking it. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments how you're liking the series. This is the first episode that you're tuning into. You got to go back. You got to go back to the first episode, High Vibes Only, and then follow along, because that's how it's meant to be played. Anyways, until next time, guys.